Hello, good evening, welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live on news about Desawe Kanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. This is Hot Edition. I am Alfred Ocansey.
My name is Beatrice.
Coming up this evening here on Hot Edition, the Economic and Organized Crime Office could have done more investigation into Cecilia Dapa case. That's according to the Ghana Integrity Initiative. JI will get some reactions to this shortly. Plus, the flag bearer of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, also indicating that he will reopen investigations into the Cecilia Dapa scandal. We have that and more coming up shortly here on Hot Edition.
We'll bring you some update from Apiate following an official ceremony to hand over what the government has done for the community after that accident that claimed lives.
Also, we're getting to the details of a group that is demanding that the Electoral Commission also gives information about the BVRs. We'll tell you why this election group is filing an RTI request demanding information on a BVR shortly here on Hot Edition. Remember, we're live on Facebook at 3FM927, also on X at 3FM927, also all across the world on 3news.com. You can listen to us on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. We'll tell you reactions coming through to the president's statement that Dumso is over. Share your thoughts with us. Did you sleep in darkness? Do you have lights where you are? Let's hear from you. And Christian Yali is here with a summary of the news. Chris?
All right, so the government has commissioned the first phase of the 124 housing units at Apiate in the Prestiahini Valley municipality of the Western region. The program, which took place earlier, followed a devastating explosion that struck the township in January 2022. The project, which started 2 years ago, ranges from 2 to 7 bedroom houses, kindergarten, 6-unit classroom blocks with sanitation facilities and the construction of roads within the municipality. The Electoral Commission says it is satisfied with the conduct of the by-election in Adreso, though the Commission is yet to issue an official report on the elections. Its director in charge of electoral services, Dr. Sribo Kwegu, says they are satisfied with the performance of its officers and the general conduct of the polls. In a statement, Care Ghana has expressed concerns about the alleged infiltration of the EC ranks by political actors under the guise of being neutral. It says the EC, as a bastion of impartiality and integrity, now stands the risk of being manipulated for partisan gain. Also, Adam Senanu, co-chair of Citizen Movement Against Corruption, has questioned the basis for the Economic and Organized Crime Office, IOCO, to seek advice from the Attorney General's office in the matter of Cecilia Dapa's alleged money laundering case. Looted royal artifacts from the Asante Kingdom are finally on display for public viewing at the Mansia Museum in Kumasi. The 32 items, including a ceremonial cup decorated with gold ornament, were received by the Asantehene during the reopening of the museum. That's it for our wrap this evening.
Christian Yali, thank you very much. There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. Also live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Y and beyond. We're getting straight into the issues now. Beatrice?
Yes, and Adam Senanu, co-chair of Citizen Movement Against Corruption, has questioned the basis for the Economic and Organized Crime Office, IOCO, to seek advice from the Attorney General's office in the matter of Cecilia Abna Dapa's alleged money laundering case. His comments come after the Office of the Attorney General advised the IOCO not to initiate any move to investigate money laundering in the dealings of the former Sanitation Minister, Cecilia Dapa. Upon a request for advice by IOCO on the matter, the Attorney General's office, in a letter dated April 25 and copied to IOCO, said that it found that the OSP did not submit the report on its collaborative investigation to IOCO. Additionally, the office noted that the OSP has not responded to IOCO's requests for its findings. Take a listen to Adam Senanu.
For IOCO having to seek the advice of the Attorney General. The law governing the work of IOCO mandates them to investigate And when it gets to prosecution, they can then decide to consult the Attorney General for advice. IOCO has not, as it were, executed its prime responsibility of investigating, and yet they are rushing to the ages when it hasn't reached prosecution. I cannot understand why they would resort to the ages. And in the context of their law, which includes the anti-money laundering law, section 1.3, which clearly states, and I read, when a person under investigation for money laundering is in possession or control of property which the person cannot account for and which is disproportionate to the income of that person from known sources, that person shall be deemed to have committed an offense under subsection 2. There's free reason under the anti-money laundering law, which IOCO has a responsibility to, that by now they should have taken action in terms of investigation and finding some form of culpability for Madam Cecilia Dapaah. So for those of us in civil society, clearly there is something going on. It could be they are trying to shield her, but IOCO has failed to perform its functions under the law. They are an entity that is already empowered to investigate. When OSP transferred the case, what he said was this: we have evidence that suggests that the crime we'll be investigating relating to corruption and corruption-related offenses, we don't have evidence of that. But we have evidence to suggest that money laundering may be going on. So we are transferring this case to you because your mandate covers that, so that you investigate. The documentation provided by the OSP includes the witness statements, over 25 witness statements. And our understanding is that the nature of those witness statements already provides the trail that IOCO could use. So yes, there is every reason if people begin to think that they are trying to shield somebody.
And you heard that Adam Senano, he's co-chair of Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Meanwhile, private legal practitioner Martin Pebu, who is not enthused about the development, says that the executive director of the IOCO, Mami Atiwa Adedankwa, must resign on principle.
3FM 92.7.
Then is presented right now the details of the Attorney General's response to IOCO. How does this impact on the future of this case? What does this tell you, really?
So far, this letter shows that IOCO and possibly the police have been sleeping on the job. That's a stark reality. I can't believe COP Mami Atiwa Adedankwa sat down for the money to be returned to Cecilia Dapaah without her taking over. The IOCO Act also provides for freezing. That is where we copied the OSP powers from. The IOCO Act provides similar provisions on freezing. The one that, look, she can do seizure, fiscally take over first, and then when it comes to bank accounts and other property, she can write to the person in possession of the accounts, etc., before later going to court. And you remember that before Mr. Jabin handed over this file, he had said in the coming weeks, he was going to hand over the file to IOCO. So it beggars belief that on the day Mr. Jabin was handing over this money to Madame Dapaah and also revoking the okay, so let's say as for the bank freezing orders, later on, they were no longer in place, right? The court hadn't granted those, right? Mm-hmm. So, but the ones that were physically with Mr. Kisie Jabin, and when we say the ones that were physically with, I think they got about $600,000, right?
Yes.
And over about 2.8 million Ghana cedis. Yes, cash. So these monies were returned to Madame Dapaah.
I'm sorry, I think we just had a hitch there on that sound, but that was Martin Pebu, private legal practitioner, speaking to us earlier. Meanwhile, NDC flag bearer John Mahama has vowed to reopen investigations into Cecilia Dapaah's case should he win the December 7 elections. In a social media post, Mr. Mahama wrote, quote, "My government will reopen investigations into alleged acts of corruption and graft in the Cecilia Dapa case," unquote. Alfred.
Well, let's stay a bit further on this matter because aide to the flag bearer of the NDC and private legal practitioner Beatrice is joining us on the telephone for a conversation. Counsel, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Thank you very much, Alfred and Beatrice. As always, it's great to be here.
Now, this is what the former president, in fact, the flag bearer of the NDC has intimated. My government will reopen investigations into alleged acts of corruption and graft in the Cecilia Dapa case. I juxtapose this with what the Attorney General is saying in his letter of response to Yoko's request for advice, that even the corruption and corruption-related offenses have not been established against Cecilia Dapa. How concerning is that? I mean, looking at how this issue has played out over the period.
Alfred, I have to say that we must all be worried and be deeply concerned about the state of our nation today. Alfred, never have we descended this low, despite the past mistakes of all governments, even pre-1992. What we are seeing today is a level of impunity against corruption, a level where people do not think about the nation again. And it is so sad and disheartening that this is happening under a tenor of a president who is supposed to be a lawyer and is supposed to even appreciate the nuances of law than anybody. Alfred, what are we talking about? A public officer, for that matter, a minister of state, was found to have stashed millions of dollars under her bed and in a bank account. If you follow the investigations of the OSP, Madame Cecilia Dapa could not tell accurately the source of her business or the source of these huge sums of monies which were found, some to have been stolen, some to have been hidden under the bed and in the bank. There was a lot of legal tussle with the OSP and the suspect in this case. The suspect claimed that he received part of the money from people abroad and what have you. And the OSP then initiated, the involvement of the FBI from the United States. Along the line, the OSP said that he was of the firm opinion that this offense or the activities surrounding Madame Cecilia Dapa's money and what have you was an issue of money laundering, and so rightly referred the case to the
Economic and
Organized Crime Unit, which is IOCO.
That's right.
Now, IOCO purportedly wrote to the Attorney General asking for direction. Direction on what? And you see, the Attorney General, who is supposed to be an Attorney General and a Minister of Justice, but who has reduced the office to that of an MPP foot soldier, what you would describe as the lowest letter to have ever written from the office of the Attorney General.
Well,
Alfred, I have before me the letter. The Attorney General's basis for saying that Cecilia Dapa's matter should not be investigated again is because the Attorney General says that he does not know the basis of the OSP's conclusion that Madame Cecilia Dapa was engaged in the offense of money laundering. Where do you hear this? Is that not why the OSP is asking Yoko to investigate Cecilia Dapa? Because this is not a case of an allegation that somebody may have or may not have the money we are complaining about.
But if you look at the Attorney General's response, and this was upon the request of advice by IOCO on this matter, this AG's response says the docket presented to IOCO by the special prosecutor only contains the OSP's letter transmitting the docket, the diary of action, statements taken during the investigation, and letters written by the OSP to other institutions like the Criminal Investigation Department and banks for inquiries. So essentially, if you look at the further analysis of the docket by the Attorney General's office, and I quote, revealed that the OSP did not find any evidence of corruption or corruption-related offenses against the other part. That's according to the Attorney General, because in his view, to the extent that the OSP did not add documents related to, for instance, his collaboration with FBI to it, then again, there was no predicate offense. I mean, for lawyers, you say predicate offense wasn't found.
The Attorney General should know that he's not the only one who went to law school. If the OSP found as a matter of fact that Madame Sisiadapa was indeed engaged in money laundering, then you would agree with me that there will be no basis for IOCO to carry out any investigation, because then a finding of fact would have been made by another investigative body. But there was a good reason why the OSP referred the matter to the IOCO for investigation, so that they will proceed with their own investigation as we speak. OSP is not able to tell us whether they have even invited Madame Sisiadapa to come and give. IOCO has not been able to tell us whether they indeed invited Madame Sisiadapa to come and give a statement. What kind of investigation did they do? For which reason they encountered some encumbrance or some difficulty, and then they wanted the Office of Attorney General to assist them. This is just a scheme to kill the Sisiadapa. And Alfred, bear with me. You realize that when this Sisiadapa matter started, the president had already prejudiced the outcome of the investigation. And so from the courts to the Office of the OSP to IOCO and now to the Attorney General, it is a grand scheme to give credence to the president's letter clearing Madame Sisiadapa before investigation could even commence. The Attorney General is an appointee of the president. The IOCO boss is an appointee of the president. The OSP himself is an appointee of the president. The judges, we are told, are appointees of the president. And so they are telling us that none of them love this nation enough. That they are telling us that the laws of Ghana can no longer work. That because the president earlier prejudiced this investigation with a letter stating that, my dear Sisiadapa, I know you will come out of this investigation exculpated. Everything is being played to just exculpate the woman, because you see, it is so stinking that a minister of state responsible for making sure that this country is clean has supervised one of the dirtiest work. What was Madame Sisiadapa's profession before he became a minister? Well, he was only a member of parliament.
I'm going to ask you this.
What are they saying?
Counsel, so already the OSP has returned the money and other properties retrieved from Sisiadapa and her husband's house in the course of the investigation, because the court ordered him to do so. And the suspects have accordingly been discharged by the special prosecutor. So, really, how is this case going to proceed? How is this case going to play out?
That is why we in the NDC are promising that we will reinvestigate this is the other package. You know why? What has happened does not amount to acquittal and discharge in law. And crime has no expiry date. And so however long it takes, when the NDC comes to power, it is a promise to the good people of Ghana, and also as a measure to deter all public officers, that public officers are not the spaces to make millions of dollars. And that is why President Mahama is promising. Madame Sisiadapa has not been discharged of any offense. Neither would the letter from the Office of Attorney General show that she is not guilty of any offense. What has happened is the MPP government given Madame Sisiadapa a breathing space for the rest of the months they will be in power. But I can tell you, and I'm speaking on authority and on behalf of President Mahama, that Cecilia Dape's matter would be investigated and the people of Ghana would have justice. Because, Alfred, enough is enough. We must not set bad examples. How is it that a case like Cecilia Dape's case, the Attorney General is telling us that we have no basis to come to the conclusion that money laundering. So then what occurred? So then all these things, what occurred? The woman herself could not tell the source of her money. And the offense of money laundering goes to the source of the money. That is why when you are not able to prove the source, the state can begin to seize your assets. So you come and prove the source. And so if the Attorney General today is misreading the law and saying that the OSP must have established that there is an offense of money laundering before referring that to the IOCO to investigate, the NDC will show the MPP how to deal with corrupt public officials. And His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has a track record in that regard. You will recall that even when his own appointee dreamt of having $1 million, equivalent to what was stolen from Madame Cecilia Dape's bedroom, he fired that appointee. President Mahama does not tolerate such nuisances and such attitude to dissipate the public resource. Rightly so, the president may not have control about the attitude of his appointees. What is instructive is that when any appointee misbehaves, when any appointee is alleged to be dealing with the public resources in a way that doesn't benefit the people, his action should be telling enough. And that is what President Mahama has demonstrated in the past, and that is what he would demonstrate in the future. So we can promise the people of Ghana that certainly we will investigate this matter.
Okay. But, Council, appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us on this matter. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Beatrice Annan is aide to former President and flag bearer of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, also a private legal practitioner, joining us on this matter. And if you just join us here, 25 minutes after 5 here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale, and on W 93.5 in YM and beyond. The flag bearer of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, has vowed to reopen investigations into the scandal involving former Sanitation Minister Cecilia Dape. In a post on X earlier today, John Mahama stated, quote, "My government will reopen investigations into the alleged acts of corruption and graft in the Cecilia Dape case." His post comes after the Attorney General's office advised against conducting money laundering investigations into the former Sanitation Minister's affairs by the Economic and Organized Crime Office, IOCO. This advice was given following the Attorney General's determination that the request by the Special Prosecutor's Office to IOCO to initiate money laundering investigations into Cecilia Dape's affairs lacked a solid foundation. Here's where we are with the matters relating to Cecilia Dape. So the question on the minds of many is that, based on this advice by the Attorney General, how can the source of the money be established? What next?
And it's quite interesting because if you look at what the special prosecutor said during that press conference when he handed over the case to IOCO, he said the investigation has identified strong indications of suspected money laundering and structuring. While the OSP acknowledges these are suspected offenses, they do not fall directly within the mandate of the office. By law, the office cannot investigate, prosecute, nor recover proceeds of crime except those that will fall within corruption and corruption-related offenses as defined under Section 79 of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, Act 2017, Act 959. So there seems to be that consensus, as it were, that more needs to go into this, and indeed anti-graft bodies that we spoke to earlier also confirmed that. But let's bring you some other issues.
In fact, before we move on, Beatrice, you recall that you accosted, for the lack of better expression, Mami Atiwa Dankwa, the IOCO boss, a few months ago. This was about some 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Asking her about the Cecilia Park case and whether she had taken custody of the money.
Yes. Well, of the docket, because the OSP had just told the media, as I just read excerpt to you, that the docket had been given to Iyoko. Yes, so she did confirm that the Iyoko had received the docket.
And let's take a listen. In fact, let's take a listen to that interview that you had with her, just so we put the issues in context, because our listeners need to understand how this case has proceeded over the period.
Preliminary comment on it?
I have that, and we are now reviewing to at the appropriate time we'll speak about it.
Before that, though, before the OSP took the case up, would you say that it was something that had come to your attention?
I don't know what is on the docket, so I'm not well briefed on that, so I don't want to make any comment on it until we review and then we'll look at it. Maybe at the appropriate time we'll speak to you.
That's excellent. But in the midst of that, you also know that the Fourth Estate, Manasseh, SML and all of that, do you have any information on that?
No, I don't.
Okay, but is this something that you were interested in taking it up before Manasseh came up with it?
You see, I don't talk about things that I'm not well briefed. If you want to talk to about any other things, fine, but not on that. Because we've just, even before, the most important thing is that he has handed over, but I don't have any more thing to add.
I mean, you have a very important role as the executive director of Iyoko. Listening to the figures on corruption and all of that, aren't you concerned as an institution that is supposed to be investigating crime and all these issues?
Every Ghanaian is concerned. You are concerned. I am also concerned. Everybody should be concerned. And what do we have to do? We must all put our hands together and we must fight whatever is fighting us. That is what I can say. But the point is that, like OSP said, if we really need to fight it, then everybody must fight it. I have somebody who asked me for something, some money, some support to pay the school fees or something. Then after that, the moment I said I will help, she called me back to say I shouldn't put it on her Momo because he's owing MTN. Can you imagine? And I did. So these are some of the things, small things that we think they don't matter. But they do. It starts from small things and it becomes big. So everybody to have a change of attitude, mindset, that this is where we are. And this is where we want to go. And we must all play a role in the fight against corruption. One person cannot do it, and it's not about leadership. It's about everybody playing a role. Whatever is expected of you, you do it. Whatever is expected of me, I do it. Whatever is expected.
So that's Mamea Tiwa there in that interview that Beatrice, you had with her some 3 months ago.
Yeah. We're hoping that today we'll get some, update on, we found this, we found that. Because if the OSP said strong indications, that was his word, or those were his words, then by now we should have had something. But the AG says she shouldn't go ahead to investigate that. Money laundering allegation, as it were. But let's bring you some other issues here on Hot Edition, because the National Association of Institutional Suppliers is vowing to resist the Education Ministry's proposed rebranding of public schools and the introduction of new school uniforms. The association, in a statement dated 2nd of May 2024, emphasized its determination to resist any government initiative that threatens the job security of its members. The association heightened the government's recent move to centralize supplies for both basic and senior high schools, which they argue adversely affect their businesses. Let's see whether we can get to Dr. George Ejehine, who is Vice President of the National Association of Institutional Suppliers. So we'll be connecting to him very shortly. But obviously, Alfred, they are expressing concerns about the rebranding. They're also talking about the sustainability of their own businesses.
Precisely. I mean, if this comes to force or fusion, that would throw them out of business, and that goes without saying. But as to whether the Education Ministry is amenable to these concerns is another thing altogether, because if you listen to the Education Ministry Public Relations Officer, that's Mr. Kwating, it appears that this is one that they haven't thought through that much of, at least the implementation date. They say it is a proposal that they put up, and based on the public backlash that they got, they had to go back and then rethink the whole process. Because if you recall, sometime in 2019, they introduced some new uniforms for junior high school students or the pupils.
Yeah.
That has not been implemented en masse. So there are some public schools that are wearing these new uniforms,
And
others are not wearing.
He seemed to have given the same suggestion that it will not be across board. Even the painting of the schools will be, if I got him correctly, new buildings that are coming up.
I see. So really, it's not as though this is one that government is ready to implement anytime soon. So it's a fundamental question that they are asking, because they have stocked up, awaiting the reopening of the public schools again. And we've lost Dr. We'll raise him back on the telephone and have a conversation with him.
Yeah.
So if you take that into consideration, you understand why they're also raising concerns.
Yeah.
And already government is owing them for the supply of some uniforms under this free uniforms policy that government has. But they have not been paid.
Yes, but again, we also should be able to find the context and the perspectives in here, because it's a proposal. We don't seem to have full details when it comes to the policy and whether or not these individuals will be contacted. But let's say, hopefully, Dr. George Ejehene, Vice President of the National Association of Institutional Suppliers, is on the line with us. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us on Hot Edition.
Good evening, my lady.
So the minister said that the ministry is changing uniforms for public schools. The public relations officer later came and said that it is only for model schools. Why is your association concerned?
Thank you very much, my sister. We are concerned because this is not the first time we are hearing of some of these things. When free SHS started, we were informed initially that the parents will no longer pay school fees to the headmasters, and rather the government was going to, pay us for the supplies that we send to our schools. Later, we started hearing some of these rumors. Later, we got to know that almost about 5 items that we were supplying had been taken away from us. We were in the exercise books business, notebooks, PE kits, house dress, school uniforms, and some of us were even supplying food items to the schools. But initially we didn't believe those rumors, but it came to pass that exercise books, which we had even embossed, became a problem. Our membership had to, we didn't know what to do with them. PE kits, we had already written the school's names and all those things in them. And eventually, the whole tendering process changed from the schools to the national level.
So I'm sorry to butt in. When you say became a problem, before you move to the other areas that you had challenges with, can you explain really what you mean by became a problem?
We had them. We had already prepared. The announcement came lately, and we had already, procured, printed, and we were waiting to supply to the schools when the announcement came that the tendering is now going to be at the headquarters. And for that matter, we couldn't supply. All those items were left. Some even had, plenty of them stocked. Where, we did all that we could, but there was no way we could dispose of them. Some still have a stock, a huge stock of these PE kits and exercise books embossed. If the school's name is on this on something, you cannot just sell it in the open market. So that's why I'm saying it became a problem for us. So that one, we lost it, and we were just left with school uniforms and house dresses. The school cloth, initially we were also doing that one. They said that the printing house in Accra, Akrofi Textiles, has been asked to print so that we sew for the schools. But that one too, for the past 3 years, as Kosovo hasn't supplied anything to us, and it means that one is also off. We are just left with house dresses and school uniforms.
Mr. Jahine, I know you expressed these concerns about past experiences, but is your association not jumping the gun, especially when the government says this is a proposal? Possibly, if this really passes through a certain stage, the government may eventually contact you as to what role you play in it.
My sister, we are worried because even as I'm speaking now, with the house dress and the school uniforms, a company has been contacted to, even we have been engaged, and the Director General of Education has written a circular to all these regional directors, to the headmasters, that a company will be coming around to take over some of the schools that our people have not been able to supply, now. So it means, these are all steps that they are taking. And the other problem that I want to draw your attention, TVET, when Ghana TVET services came, or when that service was created, most of our uniforms and most of the schools, uniforms that the schools were using, the technical schools and the vocational schools, were all supplied by our people. That one, they just came and said black and white. And black and white, we didn't know where the procurement went. As at now, we don't know the people who are doing that. But none of our members is involved. It's only few people. The PE kits, for instance, is given to only 1 or 2 people who to supply the whole country.
I believe.
And, yes.
And
it's taken from us, from us to some individuals, 1 or 2 people, and they are sewing for the entire nation. And my surprise and the worry is that at times they even import
over local products.
Yes, they do it outside the country and supply to our schools.
I believe in the midst of this, what you're looking forward to is solution, and to ensure that at least the local trader or business person, as it were, is not given the shorter end of the stick. What do you intend to do beyond this very statement you've issued and the concerns you've expressed to us?
Well, we just want to draw the attention of the general public. I believe free SHS was not meant to collapse businesses or local businesses. That, I believe, that is far from that. It was not meant to collapse local businesses. It was just to, support the parents so that they can at least take care of their children. But what we are seeing is a consistent, action that the ministry is taking to take away the little, the little that our people, are feeding on. They have wives, they have children, they have workers, and we have to lay them off because government is taking away their businesses. And you look at importing all these things from outside the country. The pressure is even putting on the dollar. We keep complaining, and aside that, it's also creating unemployment because if you lose the job, it means you have to lay off your workers. And you can imagine the impact this is going to have. Already people are complaining about business, about unemployment. So, my sister, this is it. It's a very serious situation. And to be honest with you, we are not going to relent. We will, that's why I mentioned that we must make sure all the powers that be gets to hear of this.
All right. We'll have to end it here. Thank you very much, Dr. George Ajehene, for speaking to us. And Dr. George Ajehene is Vice President of the National Association of Institutional Suppliers. Alfred, I'm sure you heard those concerns he expressed to us.
Indeed. And while we are at it, Beatrice, the government has commissioned the first phase of the 124 housing units at Apati in the Prestia Honey Valley area in the Western region. The program, which is underway comes after a devastating explosion struck the township in January 2022. That's quite fresh on our minds. The project, which started 2 years ago, ranges from 2 to 7 bedroom houses, kindergarten, 6-unit classroom blocks with sanitation facilities and the construction of roads within the community. Each of the houses would have access to electricity and potable drinking water. A total of 540 units of houses were earmarked for construction in the aftermath of the explosion. The government had earlier indicated its commitment to reconstruct the Apiate community into a modern, green and sustainable community as a model for rural development. However, some members in the community, we understand, have raised issues on repairs for buildings and peripherals which were affected by the explosion. The chairman assured them that the repair works will begin soon. The vice president, Dr. Mahmoud Bamia, in the last 30 minutes has been speaking about the project. I want to take a listen to him and we'll get onto the telephone to have a conversation on this matter here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also, while we are at it, for more on this, let's cross over quickly to our correspondent. Irama Smith is joining us on the telephone. Irama, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Hello, Alfred. Good evening.
And it's good to have you. Now, tell me, you've sat through this event since the beginning. How have especially the residents who suffered as a result of this blast been reacting or responding to this intervention by government?
They are very somber. They are very somber. They are not too happy about the state of affairs. One, they are not happy with the size of the buildings. Two, it doesn't cover everyone. You know, this reconstruction thing is being done in 3 phases. The phase 1 is what the vice president has handed over now. That's the 214 units. And they are not happy because the buildings are small in size. The phase 2 covers those whose roofs were ripped off. They are also complaining that they were given monies to replace the roofing sheets, but they are saying that the monies given to them were too small. And then the phase 3 is those whose buildings were destroyed by the contractor. So they are now going to construct those buildings, 70 of them. And they are concerned that, typical of Ghana, if you are not careful, they'll just leave that, and then those who have it now would just be given what they have, and they'll move in. And those who do not have anything to live in will just be left like that and abandoned. So the mood is quite somber.
I see, and these are concerns that's run through a number of the residents who are affected by this explosion. You say?
It's a general feeling. It's a general concern. That is that. They are not moving in right now. They'll be moving in about a month's time. So
right.
The general saying is that they don't have any option, so they'll just have to accept it like that. But you don't see excitement. The excitement you see are the party faithfuls who had gathered there, making all the noise and all that. But the people who have been directly affected are not too excited about this thing.
Irama, appreciate you on this one. Thank you so much for joining us. We've also been joined on the other line by the ranking member on the Works and Housing Committee of Parliament, Honorable Vincent Opon. Honorable, thank you so much for joining us here on Hot Edition. You heard directly from our correspondent on the ground the reactions of the people who were affected by the explosion. I mean, is this one that will concern the committee, especially if you're minded to look into these issues?
Yes. Good evening, my brother. I must confess that we have not visited a site, but the pictures that we have seen, it looks quite nice when you look at the pictures itself. And let me say, I should commend the corporate institutions, their contribution towards this project. I think government hasn't invested so much into that. Most of the funding were from corporate institutions, and let me commend them for that. And I think government also has to make budgetary allocation, because if it were to be implemented by the Ministry of Works and Housing, budgetary allocation in 2024 should have captured something. At least there should be a budget allocation for Apiate. But as far as you are concerned, there wasn't any budgetary allocation towards it. So that means government is not committed to that project. So if those people over there are making concerns, they are raising concerns about even those that have been gotten it and they are yet to have their allocation, we have a genuine cause. Unless probably the office of the president would like to make allocation from elsewhere, or if we come for media review and they make allocation for the additional funding for this project, then that would be heartwarming. But so far as I'm concerned, they have a genuine concern, and if they are not very happy, I agree, because so far as I'm concerned, the ministry, they have not made any, government has not committed any money, so far as we know, to this project. And government should do that, so that to give them a level of confidence that after all, government also cares. So far as what we have seen so far, it is from corporate institutions and then the Minerals Commission especially, because what occasioned this problem was as a result of an explosion from a mining institution. So we have also made some money available for this project. Government should show commitment. That is what I want to say. Government should show commitment. You know, the vice president went there as usual just to get some political points, but the people are not happy because they know that you can't just read from what you have not sown much. Government should commit money so that if they want to get a chance, they can get the first result of that.
I see, but beyond talking about the fact that you acknowledge the concerns that the residents have raised about the houses and the size and so on, are you going to raise it as a ranking on this Works and Housing Committee of Parliament for Parliament to look into it? And then the issue about how these houses are going to be allocated, because we've seen this before, where disaster victims suffer during this process of allocation or reallocation of rehabilitated houses or built houses because they don't belong to a particular political party and so on. So how are you going to ensure that the residents are not shortchanged because they are not card-bearing members of the MPP and so on?
Yes, when Parliament reconvenes, I think we would want to get to the site and we want to meet a cross-section of residents around. At least we also have to get their concerns. So if there should be any advice that we can advise government, we do that. Because all that we need to do is to understand the situation. Because for now, the comments I'm making is as a result of issues from the ground, from your correspondent, and other. But we need to go there, get one-on-one information, first-hand information, so that we can present a report to Parliament. Once that is done, I think we put government on its toes so that they can ensure that resources are made available to complete the entire project. And let me tell you, allocation of this project, those who finance it, the corporate institutions that put money there, should also be interested in the allocation. Other than that, just like you said earlier, it is going to be politicized. And I'm not sure that would be right. Some people lost their relatives. They've lost almost all their assets. And when it comes to allocation, and those people are overlooked. And then at the end of it, it's only political consideration that will matter when it comes to the allocation. I don't think that will be right. So the corporate institutions that put money there should be very much interested in the allocation. And I think Parliament will also be interested in how the structure that have been put up are allocated to residents, and we also put pressure on government to make budgetary allocation so that the second phase can also start. And I think at the end of it, residents over there will be happy. Just like we are talking about the situation in Volta region, government has spent 80 million, but the residents are saying we have not even seen what did the government use that money for. 80 million is gone. Just mention of that money is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that the value for money, those people over there, how will they benefit? How are they benefited from 18 million? All these things are supposed to be investigated.
Mr. Paul, in as much as you commend the corporate world for supporting and giving the necessary funding to ensure that we would have what we are seeing now, you do not think that government should be given some credit also for at least facilitating and coordinating this?
The structures are there. How much was contributed? And you just have to find out how much was contributed. and the structure that have been put over there, have you gotten value for money? Or because you have put up structures there, you have to be happy because the new structures are there. How much is the cost of those structures that have been provided? All these things, we need to investigate all these things. Just like I said, I recommended that looking at least the graphical impression, because we have not been there, the graphic impression is so beautiful. Now we have not been there. We don't even know the facilities that they have provided. Unless we are there, we interrogate the issues very well. And then once we see that there's value for money, why not? We recommend them. It's 2 years, and this is what we have been able to do. So why, if I've not been there, I don't have the details, and I start commending, government has done so well. Meanwhile, we don't even know how much went into those structures. I think we should be very, very concerned about us, a committee with that kind of oversight. We are not only interested in the structures. How much did it cost? Could it have even gotten additional structures, or what we got if we are value for money? I think we should be interested in this thing.
All right.
We need to investigate all these things. Once we get it right, we commend the government that we have done a good job. Until that, let's wait for that.
We'll have to end it here. Thank you very much, Vincent Opon, ranking member on the Works and Housing Committee of Parliament, giving us his views on what's happening in Apiate. You're still here on Hot Edition on 3FM. My name is Beatrice. I'm doing this with Alfred. Ocansey. Coming up shortly is the business news with my...
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition. Coming up, cedi's depreciation against the dollar persists as the local currency hits 14 cedis, 18 pesos to the American greenback. We'll bring you details of this and more in the next 5 minutes. Stay with me. Well, now to the details. The depreciation of the cedi to the dollar persists as the local currency hit 14 cedis, 18 pesos to the American dollar on the retail market. And this is coming despite Bank of Ghana selling $20 million to the bulk oil distribution companies in the 51st auction. The following 3 Business News Desk report has the details.
The unit has so far lost about 13.45% to the US dollar, making it one of the poor-performing currencies on the African continent in 2024. The local unit began this week selling at 14 cedis 5 pesos to the dollar at some forex bureaus, though analysts expected this auction to soak up some forex demand on the market. The prevailing corporate forex demand pressures continue to weaken the local unit. The local currency also lost major ground against the euro and the pound respectively. However, if Ghana gets a deal with its Eurobond holders and the expected inflows from the International Monetary Fund and other multilaterals, the cedi's woes may be reversed. The cedi has been on a rapid depreciatory trend since February 2024, caused by investor concerns over Ghana's progress of restructuring its commercial debt, as well as the sustained strength of the US dollar.
Well, that was a 3 Business News Desk report. In more stories, General Manager of Ghana Netherlands Business and Culture Council is calling for a total transformation of Ghana's tax system. He believes the current tax policies are not business-friendly and does not promote business growth and development. He spoke to 3 Business during a presentation of a research on foreign direct investment inflows in Ghana by the Council and Imani Center for Policy and Education.
In a lot of countries, you can calculate in advance how much tax you have to pay if you have XYZ profit, etc. Here, you almost cannot, because it's you think you're doing the good thing, you get advice, etc. You submit all your returns, etc. And then they come back and say, oh, it's not correct, and you have to we're going to penalize you, etc. And if you're against that, then you at least have to pay 30% upfront. Otherwise, we close your factory or something. That creates insecurity, and it is one of the factors which damages the business climate. Ivory Coast is booming, is next door, and Ghana is not. So why? There's nothing to do with COVID or with Brexit. No, it's to do with the government policies.
General Manager of Ghana Netherlands Business and Culture Council, Jalin Wiarda, there. Away from that, umbrella body of insurance professionals, the Chartered Insurance Institute of Ghana, has rejected public perceptions that insurance companies do not pay claims. President of the institute, Solomon Latte, says insurance companies pay claims worth 4 million cedis every day to individuals and businesses. However, he called for right premium charges to improve compensations for claimants.
I think it's a perception out there that we've all been fighting to clear. The National Insurance Commission, the GIA, IBAC, CIIG, ECOWAS Brown Card, all of us are fighting to make sure that claims are settled and on time. So that is critical. But beyond that, there's also the wrong notion that insurance companies don't pay claim. And I think part of that stems from the fact that people think insurance is like an investment or a saving, but it is not. Insurance, like I've always said, take a very small proportion of your asset, the value of your asset, keep it and use it for other things. Sometimes we invest so that when one or two or a few people have major issues, we are able to take care of them. Have you sat down to consider a car valued at, let's say, 1.2 million Ghana cedis being destroyed through flood or fire or accident? And you check the premium you paid on that car, which is about 5,000 cedis. How many of those 5,000 do insurers have to put together to pay that single claim? You understand?
Solomon Latte is president of the Chartered Institute of Ghana, CIIG, Chartered Institute of Insurance Ghana. Well, that's it for the business segment on Hot Edition. For more stories, please log onto our website on 3news.com. My name is Minu Afo. Do stay tuned. Bill is on standby with the sports news.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Bill Shen. Let's start off from the local scene where Dreams FC defeated Soccer Intellectuals by 1-0 in the MTN FA Cup quarterfinals earlier today, joining 3 other Ghana Premier League teams in the last 4. Here's an explainer looking at the final 4 teams in the competition. FC are on course for back-to-back MTN FA Cup triumphs after defeating Soccer Intellectuals 1-0 in their rescheduled quarter-final game on Thursday. Karim Zito's side joins fellow Ghana Premier League sides in Swatreman, Legon Cities and Bofo Kwatano in the last 4. It is striking to note that only Dreams FC have held the MTN FA Cup trophy among the final 4. They will face 1983 finalist Bofo Kwatano next, a side that has conceded just once in the competition this season. On the other side is a battle between Inswatreman, who are yet to concede this campaign, and Legon Cities, the highest scoring outfit among the final 4 with 10 goals. Which 2 teams will make it to the final? Indeed, which 2 teams will make it to the final of the MTN FA Cup? Moving on to African football, the Moroccan Royal Football Federation has announced receiving a verdict from the CAF Club Committee regarding the second leg of the CAF Confederation Cup semi-final clash between RS Berkane and Algerian side USM Alger. In a statement, the FRMF confirmed that USM Alger suffered a 3-0 defeat in the match against RS Berkane. This means the Moroccan club has qualified for the tournament's final, where they will lock horns with the Egyptian side Zamalek. The first leg game will take place in Berkane on May 12th, whilst the second leg match will take place in Cairo on May 19th. And because of this, of course, RS Berkane has qualified. USM Alger, both of them had a very, very big issue involving a jersey that caused RS Berkane to qualify to the final of the competition. Now here is some thoughts from Mezahi Maher, who is an Algerian journalist, about the issue, and he is saying that CAF actually lacks a bit of foresight in dealing with this issue.
But the Algerian authorities and the Algerian club have gone to the Court of Arbitration of Sport in Switzerland, and they would like them to overturn this decision, and they would like to go to the final because they believe they have every right. FIFA, for example, in its equipment regulations, Article 10.3.6 says that no countries, no clubs are allowed to have an outline of a country's map on their shirt, for example. So they believe that in the text that they have a legal basis for RS Berkane not having to play with that shirt in this fixture. So it's a complicated one. But me personally, and I think many clear-sighted people, that follow African football, our biggest problem was with CAF. Why did CAF approve this shirt in the very first place? They knew what the issue was. They knew that this is not a UN sanctioned map, international map, and that could cause problems, because if every country starts putting, maps, it can cause huge political problems across the continent. And so for me, the main issue was with CAF and their lack of foresightedness on this issue.
That was Maher Mazai on CAF's handling of this issue. He believes that CAF should have handled this issue better regards to the Jersey case, which involves RS Berkane and USM Alger. Of course, the case is still at the Court of Arbitration for Sport, and a verdict is expected soon on the matter, which could overturn RS Berkane's move to the final of the competition. But moving on to European football, Chelsea will be hosting Tottenham Hotspur later tonight, and of course Chelsea are looking to get a victory to get back in the top half of the Premier League table, as Tottenham are still chasing a place in the Champions League. Here are some thoughts from Mauricio Pochettino, who is the head coach of Chelsea.
What I can say is, always in all the new process and new structure, always, things we can do better, of course. We are not going to, we all feel the responsibility. Of course that we can do better. And then in some circumstance that is too many circumstances that happen, that is why. And it's difficult to explain with one word or with one sentences. Of course that we are working in trying to improve. I think we have an amazing staff, medical staff, performance area, coaching staff, and I think we have all experience managing clubs and being in this business.
That was Mauricio Pochettino, the head coach of Chelsea. Also, Ange Postecoglou, who is the head coach of Spurs, had this to say ahead of the game tonight.
For us, it's it's a constant evolution of overcoming different challenges we've had since then. Fair to say, up until that point, we were in pretty good shape from a squad point of view, and we had a good rhythm of games. And since then, we've had some disruptions in many areas, and we've had to overcome those challenges. Some well, some not so well. So we've been, but for the most part, I think fairly consistently. And look, Chelsea. their recent form is very good. They've got some real talent in their group for sure, and Mauricio is an excellent manager. So. And I think irrespective of all of that, you're playing away from home, at their ground. It's a derby, London derby again, so you kind of know it's going to be a tough game irrespective.
That was Mauricio, that was Ange Postecoglou, that's the manager of Tottenham Hotspur. Here are the starting lineups for both teams. For Chelsea, we have Petrovic in goal. In defence, we have Gilchrist, Chalobah, Badiashile, and Cucurella. In midfield, we have Caicedo, Gallagher, Madueke, Palmer, and Mudryk. In attack, we have Nicholas Jackson. And for Tottenham Hotspur, we have Vicario in goal, Emerson Royal, Van de Den, Romero, and Porro in defence. In midfield, we have Sarr, Bissouma, Song Heung-min, Kulusevski, and Johnson. And in attack, we have Richarlison for Tottenham Hotspur. The big one that is of interest to Ghanaians is that Jos Echampong, who has Ghanaian roots, has been named as one of the substitutes for Chelsea and for Mauricio Pochettino ahead of that game against Tottenham Hotspur. That brings an end to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen, and of course the Hot Edition continues with Alfred and Beatrice.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3 FM.
So live here on Hot Edition, and when you hear this, you know it, that it's time for campaign trail on your election command center. Get used to this sound. When you hear this sound, you should know that we're getting straight into matters relating to campaign and also election 2024, and this is your election command center. There's a call to the Electoral Commission. Where is this coming from, Beatrice?
Yes, it's coming from a group. But before we get to that call, Alfred, let's bring you an update from Ejiso. The Electoral Commission says it is satisfied with the conduct of the by-election in Ejiso, though the Commission is yet to issue a post-election report following the April 30 polls. Its director in charge of electoral services, Dr. Sribo Kweku, says that they are satisfied with the performance of its officers and the general conduct of the election. He, however, singles out an alleged bribery at a polling center as minor blot on the elections. Meanwhile, the EC is asking the general public to disregard a video circulating on social media depicting a man stuffing ballot box following the by-election in Ejiso. I'll just bring you excerpts of that statement from the Electoral Commission, which was issued earlier today, some hours before we came on. It says, the attention of the Electoral Commission has been drawn to a video circulating on social media depicting a polling station in an enclosed area. The video shows a man stuffing ballot papers into a ballot box. The Commission wishes to state unequivocally that the said video has nothing to do with the operations of Ghana's Electoral Commission, let alone the Ejiso by-election. The following details about the video clearly indicate that it has nothing to do with Ghana's Electoral Commission. It goes on to give about 6 pointers. I'll read maybe two of it to us. It says the vest the Ghana Electoral Commission uses for its operations is blue. The official in the video is wearing green vest. The second person seen in the video is wearing an orange vest. As stated, the Electoral Commission of Ghana uses a blue vest for its operations. And I'll read the point 5 out of the 6. It says each polling station in Ejiso had only one ballot box. 2 ballot boxes are displayed in the video, and then concludes by saying we urge the public to disregard the video. And the concluding part of this statement, as a commission, we remain committed to delivering credible, fair, peaceful and transparent elections in 2024. So Alfred, there you have it. Right. The EC giving assessment of what happened.
And they said they are satisfied.
Satisfied.
I see.
And calls what the bribery allegation that became widespread when we covered this as a minor blot.
How minor is that? It's a conversation we want to have with the programs manager at the Center for Democratic Development, CDD, Mr. Paul Mensah Brampa is joining us on telephone. Mr. Brampa, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Good evening, Alfred.
Now, first off, the Electoral Commission's conclusion that this by-election of Ejiso was, in fact, they said they are satisfied with it. For you at a CDD, and for that matter, monitoring this election, is it one that you would side with them on?
Yes, I do. I do. In elections management, you have specific indicators that you use to check whether the process has been transparent, has been free, has been peaceful, and offered opportunity for every eligible voter to cast his votes. And in this course, I would say the Electoral Commission was right, both from the preparation phase to the conduct and announcement of the results. One, as one of the elections, we did not see the usual disturbances that are usually characterized by elections, as you and I are aware over the years. And in fact, not only the Electoral Commission, the Election Security Task Force, led by the Ghana Police Service and the IGP, have been doing well lately as far as handling of by-elections are concerned. So there were peace across the constituencies as compared to all by-elections that have happened. You can talk of Ayawaso West Legon, you can talk of Trepone, you can talk of Atiwa, you can talk of Sankregwa. This election was very peaceful. We did not hear any incidents of violence along the elections. Two, we did not hear any protests of intimidation that deprived qualified voters from casting their votes. So the atmosphere was created, materials were supplied. We did not get any shortage of materials, nor failure of BVD machines. Everything went on smoothly. And all those who were willing and to vote were provided the level playing field to do so. So on this note, I think the Electoral Commission claimed that they were satisfied with the conduct of this election. I side with them.
I see. But would you also side with them if they say that that act of that member of parliament for Kwadaso, Professor Kingsley Nyako, giving envelopes, we understand an envelope that contains money. The Electoral Commission itself says that he got access to the inner perimeter where these electoral officers were, give them this money, told them to use it for lunch. Would you describe that as a minor blot on that day?
Yeah, there are two issues we are dealing with here. As the Electoral Commission describes it as a minor issue, they are referring to the impact that such acts could have for the entire election. You and I are privy to two court cases that challenged election results in 2013 on the basis of the 2012 elections and in 2021 on the basis of 2020 elections. The major declaration or judgment from the court is that, yes, there were some few irregularities, but they were not enough to mar the elections or change the election outcome. And therefore, they withheld the results announced by the Electoral Commission. You see, in elections, it's a combination of polling station results that come out to declare the electoral results. It's not only one result that is declared for a winner. So you ask yourself, if indeed the envelope given was even given with the objective of influencing the officers to change the results or to do something in favor of one, you ask yourself at that moment, what could have the two officers do in the presence of agents of the political parties, in the presence of other officials from the Electoral Commission, in the presence of security agents? What could have the two even do? Even if the two of them were able to change 2 or 3 results, what impact will that 2 results have on the entire constituency results?
Okay, so well, that's one part of the issue. The other issue is the act itself, Mr. Brampa. Should it not concern you that now we have a member of parliament who we do know is not an accredited agent of any of the persons who were contesting that election, had access to the inner perimeter and even give money to these people? We're talking about all of these fears of inducement in elections, and that should concern you, is it not?
Sure, that's why I said we are discussing two issues from different aspects. So the other one is criminality. Criminal issues are not the issue of the Electoral Commission. Criminal issues are issue of the criminal investigation system and the police service. And Electoral Commission did 8 bits by taking quick action to replacing its polling staff and also reporting them to the police. It's up to the police to take other aspects, because I know a case have 2 parties. The police can never conclude this investigation without inviting the said member who gave the envelope. So the Electoral Commission did 8 bits. It's up to the Criminal Investigations Department to do it. Come to whether he has access to the police station or not. It's a worry situation that has come along the elections line. And it's part of the culture of Ghanaians that we give respect and dignity to certain groups of people, and even if they don't have the authority in the sight of them because they are positions, we allow them. There are so many instances you've gone to monitoring elections and you see chiefs granted those privileges. You see clergy granted those privileges. You see imams, so respected people in communities when they come to the polling station, even though they don't have the right to enter, because of the cultural morality of respect to our elderly, we give them those recognitions. So I was speaking to my friend, one of my friends in the Electoral Commission, and I told him, he said they are also worried, they've been worried over the years. The instructions in the training manual of the Electoral Commission staff is clear. Only accredited people with a budget are allowed into the into the polling center, and they even have their limits as to how far they could go. But as I said, these are some of the moral issues that surround it.
Well, but does it concern you as well that up until now,
most of the violence that come up in the polling stations, registration centers, is because of this. And in fact, in a draft that Duma say, because of the consistent violence in elections, Kodio teamed up with the police commander there to review that stance. And in fact, we came up with special budgets for even vehicles that will be distributing food to party agents. And we made it straight that even if you are the paramount chief of the area, you don't have access there. And that was enforced. That's why in the last election, you never had any violence at the Jusso constituency. So it's a worry that we all have to take care about. But as I said, we should intensify the training of the Electoral Commission. We should intensify education of who qualifies to be there. There are a lot we can do to stop that.
Well,
of course,
in most cases, you would hear that by this time at least the police should have issued a statement on this matter. Since the EC referred this matter to the police has been silent on this. I mean, no statement even acknowledging the Electoral Commission's referral.
I'm concerned, my brother. I'm concerned. I've been speaking about this since morning. I'm concerned because we have a current Afrobarometer data that says that when an ordinary citizen have a case, the probability that the person will be quickly prosecuted and jailed is higher. But when an elite or people of standards in the community have similar case, the probability that the person will be freed is higher. If we have such perception among the citizens, it breeds distrust, and that's why we see continual attacks and refusal to resisting arrest when the police go to arrest people, because they know that as soon as they get to the police station, they are dead. They won't have anybody to defend them. So this is something that we need to do. Again, this is a clear case of precedent. If we don't do anything about this case, it will get to a point that everybody at all can enter polling station and start dishing out money, start dishing out goods. Is that the way we want to go? That's why I said not only the police trying to investigate, they must investigate, produce a report for us to see. And I also thought that as soon as Parliament convenes, the Privileges and Ethical Committee must also have interest, because it goes against the image of honorable members of the House. So we need to take a critical look at this and make sure that we don't only punish the EC staff because they are ordinary citizens and leave the person who gave the envelope because he is an MP. It will feed into the already mistrust perception that citizens are having in the country.
Mr. Brampa, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate you.
Thank you, too.
Paul Mensah Brampa is Programs Manager at the Center for Democratic Development, CDD, here on Campaign Trail on your election command center. Let's stay a bit further on this matter. The Electoral Monitoring Group, CARE Ghana, they have called on the Electoral Commission to publish the names and pictures of all returning officers recruited by the Electoral Commission for the purposes of elections in the country. This, the group believes, will help identify all such persons in order to root out those who have political party affiliations. Let's have a conversation with David Kumiado, Executive Director of CARE Ghana, is joining us. Mr. Ado, appreciate your time here on Campaign Trail on 3FM 92.7. Now, the Electoral Commission, you would assume, would have such measures in place to weed out these persons who are political party affiliates who get into their fold, is it not?
Well, thank you, Alfred, for having me. My regards to yourself and your cherished listeners. Now, that is the expectation, and the Electoral Commission should have that. But, Alfred, what is happening now, it seems to me that it's a deliberate act, not that the Electoral Commission cannot do. In some few days before the Electoral Commission came to announce on the 5th of February that people who are interested to become returning officers and deputy returning officers in the 2024 elections should apply. But before then, we have had an information from our sources, from the commission, that some MPs, DCEs, and MCs are submitting names of some individuals to be taken in as returning officers and deputy returning officers. So when we heard this, we were a bit alarmed. And we say, is the person sure of what the person is saying? He says, yes. So we checked. We are across the country, all the 16 regions. So we checked with our people on the ground, Greater Accra, Ashanti, Upper East, and Volta. We did two constituencies. And my brother, there was a confirmation that
there was a confirmation that MCAs had actually recruited people to get into the Electoral Commission or be recruited by Electoral Commission as returning officers?
The confirmation we had was that a quota was given to MCs, DCEs, and some MPs between 20 and 45, that they should bring people to be recruited as returning officers and deputy returning officers. And these are some of the constituencies we checked. Amasaman, Ocansey North, Asawase, which is Ashanti region. Amasaman and Ocansey North is in Greater Accra. Ashanti region, Asawase, Swami. And then Upper East, Nandom, and then Yendi, and then Volta region, Ketu South, and then Hohoi. Even with the Ashanti region, Kumewu is involved.
Kumewu?
Yes.
I see. Pretty interesting. So, with this, I was just asking how widespread this is. I mean, across the country. That is, if your research covered at least the 16 regions of the country?
The information we had was across the entire country.
I see.
But this is what we verified. We just checked just 4 regions and then 7 constituencies. And you see, we are picking up information. This one is alleged, but it is from a reliable source that the Kumewu MP was made in charge of the Juso MP, that is for the NPP. And some of the guys who became the returning officers, the EC officials in this Juso election were from Kumewu and they were NPP executives. Some of them were youth organizers, branch youth organizers. They call them polling station youth organizers.
I see.
Okay. We've called for the album of the NPP so that the names that we have, we will cross-check with them. That's what we are telling the Electoral Commission. If you think that all these things are baseless allegations, produce the names, publish the names, and the pictures. We will have the album. We will help the Electoral Commission to identify such persons.
Right, and so that's what you're demanding now. And has there been any indication of a response to this demand that you're making, David?
There's not been, but this is our first call.
Right.
Obviously, we are going to use the RTI to get those information so that we can help the whole country, not only the Electoral Commission. Because you see, the 2020 election is an election that we cannot joke with. It promises to be a very competitive one.
You mean the 2024 election?
2024 elections, sorry. It promises to be a very competitive election. And we do not have to do things that will jeopardize the peace of this country. We've gone twice to the court with this election, 2012 and then 2020. We believe that it is just divine intervention. That is why the country is at peace. And we want to help to maintain the country in this particular order, one piece. So we are going to help the Electoral Commission and help the whole country to unravel this. And then I'm sure that we can go into the 2024 elections free, fair, and transparent.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kumiado. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much for having me.
David Kumiado, Executive Director of Care Ghana, Election Monitoring Group, joining us here on Campaign Trail New Election Command Center. On behalf of the rest of the team, I want to say thank you so much for staying with us here on Hot Edition on Campaign Trail as well. On 3FM 92.7, make a date tomorrow, 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and W93.5 in Wa. Join me at 10 p.m. on TV3 for Ghana Tonight. My name is Alfred Ocansey. I did this with Beatrice. Have a great evening.
Accra gets busy on this frequency.